Welcome to the Wisconsin Music Podcast.
Welcome, music enthusiasts, to another episode of the Wisconsin Music Podcast, where we delve into the vibrant sounds and stories of talented artists from the Heartland. I'm your host, Zach Felt. This week, we have a special treat for your ears. Joining us is the soulful songwriter hailing from Waukesha, Wisconsin, MD McNally. His latest EP, Crimes, is a mesmerizing blend of soaring folk, big sky blues, and mesquite smoked ballads. Each track is a journey in itself, weaving together shimmering guitars, stacked vocals, and a silken sheen of echo, creating a sound that is both comfortable and compelling. Having previously enchanted us with his debut solo LP, The Marvelous, MD McNally returns with Crimes, showcasing a clear intent and a newfound freedom in his musical exploration. Join me in unraveling the stories behind the music as we discuss the creative process, the evolution of his songwriting, and the unique elements that make Crimes a thrilling, fresh, yet intimate, familiar listening experience. Produced by McNally himself, with the expertise of recording and mixing engineer Ian Olvera, hopefully I said that correctly, featuring the rhythmic talents of Devin Dropka on drums and percussion, and mastered by Justin Perkins. Crimes is a testament to an artist settling comfortably into a creative groove. McNally's evolution as a songwriter is palpable, and his confidence shines through each performance. So welcome, McNally, to the Wisconsin Music Podcast.
Thanks, Zach. You can just call me Mike.
Okay, so we have Mike.
Everybody else does.
Okay, cool. So we have Mike here. We're going to dive right into your music origin story. Let's let the listeners know how music has evolved in your life.
Sure. So I think like a lot of people that are musical, it happened very early in life where you're touched by a certain sound or a certain song or whatever your circumstances are. It's just, it draws you in, you become infatuated or it becomes part of you, and you know, it sticks to you for life. So it happened pretty early for me. I had a little Fisher-Price record player from the late 70s or early 80s that I would put some records on. We had a stack of 45s, just random stuff. But the one that I always listened to, that I always looked for and ended up being claimed mine was the song Convoy by C.W. McCall.
Okay.
It was there was a 70s, probably a sleazy 70s movie about truckers, but it was a great song that I just kept playing over and over and over again in this little record player, and the record was warped and scratched, and there's a string section on the record, on the recording, and if I remember it now, you know, it almost sounded psychedelic. So it was like, you know, it was like country, it was psychedelic, it was Americana, it was, you know, talking blues, that kind of stuff. So it was an early obsession.
Nice.
And then you know, I grew up. I was a little kid in the 80s, and my older brothers and sisters had a lot of music around, pop and rock from the era. And so, you know, mixtapes galore, you know, listening to stuff when they weren't home, when they were at school, and I was too young for school. There was a particular mixtape that I was drawn to, and it started off with Eye of the Tiger. And so that was one of my first, you know, internal anthems that before I could play any instruments or really do anything, I loved. And it was full of stuff. It had songs by the Police on it. It had Asia. It had Jay Giles Band. All kinds of stuff from that era.
Right.
Stray Cats, and that was like something I could do myself. I could put the tape in and hit play and rewind it and skip songs. And back when you had to do more stuff to make music happen.
Right.
That was something I could do myself, and so I listened to it. I still have it somewhere. But you know, as you get older, you start getting into what your friends are into, and by the time I was old enough to play an instrument, bands like Soundgarden, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, Stone Temple Pilots really ruled my life, and so that was a fun time. You know, you still had a lot of great older rock bands doing stuff like AC/DC, and I wasn't too much into Metallica, but they had a big album then. Red Hot Chili Peppers. I mean, that was pop when I was sort of coming of age. That was the most popular music around. Thank goodness. And it had a profound effect on me. You know, and as I started to get more musical and I played some piano, played some saxophone, settled in on guitar, and met some friends in the high school years. We sort of moved into the space of that was occupied by jam bands, the newer jam bands coming out of the 80s or early 90s, like Fish and Widespread Panic, and um, the list goes on and on. And
Right.
we often, that was sort of our ideal in high school. Can you improvise? Can you play um, a 3 hour dance with 10 songs, right? And so we were also I was very lucky to have friends that really wanted to write their own stuff and have our own songs. We'd cover some stuff, but we really wanted, and I don't know if they were any good, but we certainly liked them.
Yeah.
Every song that we had extended jam periods, awkward. We were not sure how we're going to end this type moments, but it was all part of the experience. It made me a much better player. It kind of fast tracked my development in those years, those kind of formative years.
Okay.
So that's sort of how it all got started.
Nice. And then fast forward to where you started being of age, of being able to go and play in venues. So kind of give us an idea of how that was when you first started out.
Yeah, so I grew up in Wauwatosa, which is just the first suburb in Milwaukee County, and we started to get shows at places like the Rave Bar, the basement there. There was a place called the Globe, smaller venues around Milwaukee, and some things that weren't supposed to be music venues, like bowling alleys and that kind of stuff.
Right.
And usually when we did something, we were sort of the only band at our age level playing out, and it turned into sort of like a roving party where we went. So it wasn't necessarily that we particularly were the draw, but the fact that it was a happening and that people could do naughty stuff at our shows and be with all their friends was a lot of fun. And usually we got asked not to play the place that we had just played, so we assumed several different names. But it was there's no mistaking. I think there were 7 of us in the band with some percussion, and we just had a great time. We were laughing, and it's stressful too, being in a band and having bandmates and getting everybody to practice. But man, you never laugh so hard as you do if you're lucky and you have a good band.
Right. So, like, what were some of the names of the groups you were in around that time?
The one that I was in, that was sort of the core group, was called Siseo, and that was just a very clever high school trick of doing Oasis backwards. Gotcha. And I think we had tried to play an Oasis song backwards at one of the gigs, something stupid like that. But so that was us. And I forgot what the other. I think we went under Colonel Hart's band one time after we got kicked out of the Rave. But it was Siseo was the name of the band that I had with my high school friends.
Gotcha.
And we stuck it out for maybe a year in college. Played some other shows that were decent sized. But everybody sort of was in their separate boats, going separate ways. And so then I got into some college bands with some friends I'd met. Played a lot of basements in Madison where I went. Played the Union, a few other small places. And then tried to do nothing but originals. The writing was probably so. And then I moved down to Austin after college and tried to make it in songwriting for a few years. Ended up mostly just performing at pubs and bars, all original stuff. Sometimes I'd have someone to play with, sometimes I wouldn't. But I never really got a cohesive group. And I ended up, like I said, mostly working behind the bar, which sort of screws up your, I don't know if you've ever bartended for extended periods, but sort of screws up your life.
Yeah.
A little bit. And it's exhausting. And this is back when you could still smoke in bars. So, there were some health things that I had going on too. And it was a stressful time in my life for other reasons. And I went to make it as a songwriter and didn't. And so I came back to the Milwaukee area and did other stuff for a long time. And music sort of, and I don't want to say I disavowed it, but I knew that the songs that I had written and the performing I had done had coincided with a particularly difficult time in my life, maybe a miserable time in my life, if we're being honest with, the emotional impact. And so I didn't derive any pleasure from writing or from seeing a song that I'd been working on make it to its final iteration. It wasn't exciting to me. In fact, it made me feel awful. And so there was something was definitely wrong. And I went and did other things for a long time, almost 15, more than 15 years before I found the will to actually write another song. It was like 17 years. Now, in the meantime, I'd played, guested at weddings and a lot more funerals
Yeah.
for whatever reason. But I kind of kept it. I kind of kept things. I didn't even keep things warm really. I just sort of took out the guitar once in a while. And then
Yeah.
by the time COVID hit, I was spending a lot more time at home and just I take stuff out and I wouldn't have to really put it away. I kind of leave it out. And I got some really good advice from a friend that, if you are serious about playing music again, make sure make sure there's no barrier to entry, right? So if all your stuff's put away and you've got no materials out, then that's a barrier to creating or to capturing your creation. You can always sit there and create by yourself, but anytime you have an idea and you're by yourself, often these ideas are fleeting for me. Whether it's a phrasing or a guitar lick to build around, or a chord structure, or some kind of a mantra, or even a rhythmic feel that I want to build around. That all just is fleeting. So everything has to be turned on and ready to go for me to be the most productive. And somehow in that kind of mid stage of COVID, I decided that I wanted to revisit a few tunes from the days of playing the pubs and stuff in Austin. So songs that I'd written a long time ago,
Okay.
even in college. And there was, I had a dozen and a half songs, most of which I just really didn't want to think about again. A few of which I thought, oh man, this would have been so great if I could have gotten the electric band into it and stuff. And so I started tinkering with some, like GarageBand and some other ways to layer. And I didn't realize I could program drums and have them as a placeholder. And then I ended up buying a bass, and as I worked on these tunes for, I don't know what was pushing me, I started to really like what I was hearing, and I really enjoyed doing it. And I started to like the songs that I didn't like any previously. I started to like them again. And so I laid one down and I recorded it, and I did vocal layers and I did guitar parts, and none of it had been part of the song as I'd performed it before, but a lot of it was sort of a realization of a long time hope that these songs would be presentable in that format, in a rock format, as opposed to just a singer-songwriter format.
Okay.
And so that one, I finished one, then I finished another one, and then I was like, oh, well, I wonder how this would sound. And then while I was doing that third one, a couple of songs just sort of like poured out. And then it was sort of like, it wasn't exactly linear, but I'd finish a song and immediately want to start a new one. Because when working on that song, I had a thought about what kind of other feel I wanted to explore. There was sort of a new wave beat on one of the tunes on the first record. Okay, that was really cool. But what would something sound like in a different time signature or more of a waltz? And I wanted to explore that. And so it was really fun, and I was having fun, and I was consumed by it. And out came The Marvelous, which was 14 songs, a handful of which had I'd written a long time ago, but most of which were brand new.
Okay.
And so it was really, really exciting to put something out, and I didn't really stop.
Great.
Once The Marvelous was out, I'm sorry, once The Marvelous was submitted for mixing, and I was working with Ian, who you mentioned, I just kind of kept going. So he'd be mixing some of the tracks, and I'd be recording new stuff. And by the time The Marvelous was totally done, it was wrapped, I had probably 7 or 8 songs. By the time I actually put it out, I had 15 or 16 songs ready to go. And so that was kind of the genesis of Crimes. And Crimes, I don't want to say I picked my best songs for Crimes, but it felt like the 5 tunes on Crimes are the ones that I was ready to let go of. You work on something long enough, for me anyways. I work on something and I want to let it. I need to let it go. And I'm sure there's a lot of different ways to do that, but in my mind, letting it go means releasing it, because then I'm done with it. And then I can move on to something else, or there's a new empty bucket that I need to fill up with ideas, and that's sort of, in the last couple of years, has been what has been motivating me, to just kind of keep going. It's like, there's an empty space, and I want to make music on it, and it's been great.
Yeah, because sometimes if you hold on to songs way too long before you release them, they just become stale, and then they just get overproduced or just don't feel right anymore.
Yeah, or overthought or whatever. I think it's important to have a snapshot of where
Yes.
you were, and I know it's only been a couple of years, but if I listen to the record, the first record, The Marvelous, I mean, I still like the songs. There's nothing that bothers me. I like to play them when on the occasion that I play out. The songs I picked for Crimes, I'm real happy with how that turned out. And I've got I'm working with Ian now. We tracked this summer on another 12 or 13 songs that I'm not sure how we're gonna stage the release. If we're gonna do one LP or do a couple of EPs or do a small LP, and then I don't know what we're gonna do. Oh, I also did a single. I did a Christmas song last year.
Oh, okay.
Just to fill up the void. It's about druids and other stuff.
Nice,
yeah.
Nice.
sort of Christmassy.
Cool.
Producers and beat makers of Milwaukee, it is time for the 2024 Big Beat MKE Beat Battle Tournament, taking place at the Jackalope Lounge at the Wicked Hop in Milwaukee's 3rd Ward on Thursday nights between April 25th and June 13th. Producers are going to go head-to-head in 3 one-minute rounds to determine who is going to move on to the next round of the tournament with some amazing prizes from some great sponsors. Don't forget that you can submit your beats today at breakingandentering.net through March 31st.
When I was doing the intro, I had read off that you kind of did some of this on your own without Ian. So what did you do by yourself, and then what made you move on to working at the studio with Ian?
So everything I wrote everything and tracked most of the musical parts in my home studio.
Okay.
What I stumbled into Wire and Vice in Wauwatosa, which is where Ian was working. I happened to run into him, which was very lucky. I wanted somewhere to track drums to get a big, nice live drum sound.
Okay.
I felt as though the sounds I was getting out of my guitars, I use a real small tube amp, and I feel like I got the sound that I wanted. I got the sound that I liked, and I figured doing it all over again would be prohibitively expensive, and there's no guarantee I would get the same sound that I've become accustomed to in these playbacks. So
right.
So I've been using Ian mostly in a drum recording engineer position.
Okay.
So he'll engineer the drum sound, and then he'll mix that in with all the other tracks that I've already produced and laid down, and he'll glue them all together and do his thing. He's a fantastic mixing engineer.
Yeah.
He's got great taste. He's into everything. He's into so many kinds of music that I don't listen to, but he's a touring sound engineer for Lucinda Williams. He's a songwriter. He's performed a ton. He's got old things. He'll say something off the cuff like, oh, this this kind of has a Cars vibe or Cat Stevens vibe or something like that. And it's very familiar to me. It's very easy, and so it's really been nice, and we're really getting good takes and good sound that we like, and we've been very happy with the drummer selection too. On the first record, a buddy of his who he played with in a band played on it, and then we got somebody more local to play on Crimes, who's Devin Jopka, who is with Field Report. He makes his own records. He's a teacher. He's just a brilliant musician.
Yep.
And he's multi-instrumentalist. It's a real treat to have somebody like that proximate.
Yes.
And so we did Crimes with Devin, and we recorded the entire next record with Devin as well.
Wonderful. Yeah. I've met Devin before. I've taken my high school jazz group to the Milwaukee Jazz Institute Jazz Fest, and he was one of the adjudicators, and he was very good with the kids, and he just knows his stuff, inside and out. When he was talking with the kids could understand exactly what he was trying to teach them. So yeah, he's definitely a very good source for not only as a musician, but as a educator as well.
Yeah. And it's silly. I should only be writing this stuff for myself and enjoying it for myself and all that kind of stuff. But it really is, it's important to me that when he was recording with me, that he was into it. I didn't want to, he's a professional. You come in, you do your work and all, but he was like, we had a lot of fun
Yeah.
And that was very gratifying that he likes the tunes. He likes the way I present the music, and he definitely adds something to it. And a perfect example of that is I had a finished song that there were some pieces of it. There's always hooks for me, my own hooks in my songs and stuff that I'm always coming back to and make it feel special to me. And that was true of this particular song. And then we brought it in and he played drums over it. And as he was playing drums on it, I realized I didn't like the song anymore. And so what I did is we wrapped on the session and I sat on it for weeks. And I thought, what am I going to do with this? So what I did with it is I stripped everything away except for the drums, and I built a new song on top of the drums.
Oh.
I kept a little bit of the refrain patterns, but I changed it incredibly. It's a totally different song, and it's not annoying to me anymore. It's not loud to me anymore. It doesn't grind on me. It doesn't have gratuitous guitar parts, and it sounds unique. And I think that for him to have the creative ability to come in and change the dynamic such that the song that I wasn't sure about, he inspired me to make something to reach deeper and further. And I'm really excited for that one to be finished, to hear what it sounds like when it's all mixed together, because he also used one of those Roland like box things that you hit with sticks and
okay.
Boom, 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 boom. So there's gonna be some. I'm really excited about this. There's gonna be some really cool auxiliary percussion, and it's gonna be rad.
Awesome.
Yeah, the first record is called The Marvelous. Was called, and the lead track is one called Midwestern Day, and it's gotten some pretty good spin on college radio and non-com radio, and that was actually one of the last songs I wrote for the record. Maybe. Yeah, I wouldn't say I was going to leave it off, but it was one of the it's got a lot more of like a alternative rock sound to it than say Americana or roots rock or jammy rock or whatever. There's definitely more of a, I don't know, maybe it's the 90s roots poking through.
Yeah.
And that one was just a real easy one that just tumbled out, and it was one of those songs where you write it and it almost feels like everything you did was already there. You're just assembling it.
Yeah.
And I love it when that happens, because it doesn't happen very often.
There's a common side effect, and it's not what you think.
even the lyrics on that one came very easily. And it's not necessarily a subject or a reaction to anything. It's just sort of a state of being. And I like how that song makes me feel when I play it and when I sing it, because it's not it's present to me.
Gotcha.
For me, it's a present song.
Right. Well, that's kind of
as opposed to like an adventure or a story. Right.
Right. Because that's kind of where you kind of started getting into music, was in the 90s. We're probably around the same age. I mean, I was growing up when Nirvana and Soundgarden and Dave Matthews and all those guys started getting to the forefront of everybody's minds. And yeah, that was, that's where you kind of built everything from, it sounds like.
Yeah, but there were some really weird roots behind that.
Right.
Always having C.W. McCall, Convoy, rolling around in my
Okay.
head. We got a great big convoy heading through the night. And I got really into like alt country, and my dad listened to a lot of Willie Nelson and
Nice.
Irish traditional music, and,
Cool.
And Clancy Brothers, and so there's some other stuff kind of thrown around in there, and I eventually tired of the 90s sound. It's still fun.
Right.
I'll still listen to it, but it's not what I'm going for.
Right. I mean, the kids that I teach at high school, that's kind of like back when we were that age in high school, the 70s, we were kind of like, oh, that was the cool music back then. Now the 90s music to them is like, oh, that's the cool music from back then. So
I saw a band playing a Nirvana tune over on Brady Street not that long ago, and I started thinking about it, and I think they were playing something. I don't even think it was off of Nevermind. I think it was off of Bleach.
Okay.
Which I think came out in 92. And there was no way those guys were 30.
No
way. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
That was cool. I like that. And, another funny thing is I had played a show this summer at Tosa Fest, and it went really well. And I hadn't played with a band in a long time. And I found a couple of guys to play with. One of them's named Yanni Chudnow, and he's a fantastic drummer. He's actually a student of Devin's.
Okay.
And he teaches at the Wauwatosa School of Music.
Okay.
And he taught my kids drums. And so I said, Dad, would you ever want to play sometime if I can get my shit together and get a gig? and so we hooked up on that, and I said, well, anybody that, I mean, I do it like a White Stripes thing. I don't know how that I'd be any good, but do you know any bass players? And he brought a buddy of his that he went to grade school with, and so we had a trio, kind of like a power trio.
Okay.
And we had a blast. The Jesse who played bass for those shows was wearing a John Fishman bass strap or whatever.
Okay.
Like, oh, you guys like Fish, and as you do when you talk about those kinds of bands. My favorite show, my first show was in 1995 at the Eaton County Coliseum, and they played blah blah blah, and they're just like shaking their head, and I just caught myself. I'm like, wait a minute. What year were you born? When were you guys born? They were born in 98, 3 years after I went to that show. So I've become one of those burnout guys that talk about shows that happened before they were born. That's great. But no, we had a blast, and musically, there just was no barrier. It was so easy to play with them, and we had so much fun that it went so fast. But so I talked about Midwestern Day. One of the songs that's sort of become at least amongst my family and friends, a favorite, is called "You Were a Ghost," and that's one that sort of popped out and is much more of a reflection of it's much more contemplative about the passing of my father, who died 8 years ago. And we had a great, good relationship. Nothing to haunt me per se. And I think that sort of genesis of it was, he died and we're okay. We were okay, and there's nothing to haunt me about it. But I almost wish you would haunt me. The missing someone who's gone, missing someone who was dear to you, and the optimism of believing in ghosts as opposed to the fear. Capture another special moment with somebody you love as a spirit, trying to hold on. And that's sort of the feeling of where that song came from. And it's a good rock tune. Besides the fact, it's got good, double stop picking and sound, it sounds vintage rock and roll, and but it also has some quirks that I think are that come out because of my style of play or the way I play.
Okay.
There's definitely some quirkiness that comes through.
Nice. Who are some of, like, because you're a guitarist, it looks, with all the guitars on the back wall. Yeah. Who would be like your top 3 influences of the instrument?
That's hard. So I would say, wow, that's so hard. I don't know if these are the top 3, but 3 that come to mind.
Okay.
One is Mark Knopfler from Dire
Beautiful.
Straits.
Yep.
Especially more recently. I would say when I started to pick up and songwrite again, I started to concentrate a lot more on. I stopped using picks, basically.
Oh, okay.
And then I kind of thought, oh, that kind of sounds like Dire Straits stuff. And then I started kind of looking at Mark Knopfler and oh yeah, well, he doesn't use, he does use a pick, but he's got this technique with his like kind of bebop guitar playing with thumbs and fingers. I wasn't doing exactly what he was, but I liked sort of emulating that style. It feels good to do that. I do other stuff now. I still don't use a pick, but so he's definitely a big one. Earlier in my life, I would say I was particularly enthralled with Dickie Betts of the Allman Brothers Band.
Yep.
His sense of melody and power through his, there was nothing weird or dissonant in his playing. He wasn't necessarily playing with tension using dissonant notes like some of the other jam bands that are current do that. There weren't these big. It was all these major notes, these powerful notes, just phrased beautifully, and there's no doubt who's playing. When you hear him. Right. Same with Knopfler. I mean, same with someone like Jerry Garcia, who's very influential on everybody, and that style is very influential to me. He and Bob Weir do, what the Stones do, with the interplay on the guitars. I'm much more drawn to texture and riffs, and melodic solos than say speed solos or overly technical solos. Gotcha. I guess. Yeah. Maybe because I can't do it. I'm by no means a special guitar player. I'm adequate. I love it. I don't know that there's somebody that plays guitar that loves it more than me. But certainly, as far as skill goes, there's I think I'm the best on my block, but I'm not positive on that. Gotcha. I work the hardest on my block. Yeah. At being better, but I don't know what I can claim. So what it all amounts to is what I can play is how it comes out. And I really am happy with how it's coming out, and I want to do more, and I love doing it.
Wonderful. As we're wrapping this up, if you could go back in time and tell your 20-year plus younger self, what advice would you give yourself?
Ooh. It's a good one too. I would say find a way to make money that does not involve bartending. I fell back on that too many times, and I would have been happier, or at least better rested or more healthy, having a different kind of job. Gotcha. Something that was not bartending.
Gotcha. Okay. Anything that we haven't talked about that you would like the listeners to know before I let you go?
I don't know. What can I say? I love when people reach out and tell me that they liked something in my music or are interested in how it happened or are drawn to it.
So how can they reach out? Do you have email,
sure.
Website,
social
media, stuff like that?
So the main places I monitor on social media are Instagram, so MD McNally Music, or you can find it on Facebook too.
Okay.
I have a link tree and stuff, but yeah, those are the main parts. I'm not on. I couldn't do like 5 social media things. It's just too much, like Twitter and X and Twitch and
and all that stuff,
Flap and whatever else there is. I'm just trying to keep my head above water.
Right.
And I try to do sort of this new technique of being a musician and trying to solicit fans through ads and marketing and stuff. And it was so exhausting, and it started to make me feel like not doing music anymore after I'd just gotten back to a powerful place within me where I was comfortable with myself, where I was driven by myself driven. I was starting to turn back because I had to do this selling, and I'm just not interested.
Right.
I obviously I want people to like and hear the music, and it'd be great if that could be some kind of a career, but you can't make somebody listen. You can't make somebody buy. The music has to stand up by itself. And even if you get a few, a few hits doing those techniques, it just didn't seem very satisfying. So I'm just going to do what I do as long as I can do it.
Right.
And try to show it, promote it wherever I can. But I'm not going to try to play any kind of numbers game with internet stuff.
Right.
I think that the music industry is so, I don't know if it's easier now or harder now. I have no way to measure that. It's easier to put stuff out, that's for sure. Otherwise, I wouldn't be putting stuff out.
Right.
What
I was going to say is that I read somewhere where it's like today's musicians are more like t-shirt salesmen than musicians. It's like that's the only way they make money is selling merchandise instead of selling, their art.
You got to sell a lot of hamburgers.
Yeah.
If you're doing that, right? So I think all I'm trying to do is sort of find a balance between working other jobs. I do contract work and some other stuff, and scraping together some money to make the next record. Because even if I don't even know what record labels do anymore. I mean, I'm sure there are popular mid-tier touring musicians that make money, but I know plenty of musicians that can't afford to tour.
Yeah. Yep.
Like I mean, you have to tour and I don't tour. I would, maybe someday, but I'm not interested in doing that. I would much rather spend that time. I've got young kids. I'd much rather spend that time here writing music, putting out songs, playing locally than going out on the road and missing things here and having it sort of be a zero sum. So you get me going. I turn into a chatty Cathy, and then time runs out.
That's okay.
Hey, I can talk for hours if you want.
Yeah.
We haven't even really talked about music.
No, not really. I mean,
doesn't it feel like we haven't really even talked about anything?
I mean, we have, but it's more like it's a nice little conversation. It's like sitting at the bar having a drink with your friends and just shooting the shit. Basically,
we didn't even have an argument or like a friendly not competitive argument. I'm not really competitive, but we didn't even have a serious discussion about the best era of David Bowie. I feel empty.
Oh man. So I'll put
What are you into? What do you listen to?
Oh, I try to listen to everything. I mean, David Gray, Brandy Carlisle, Dave Matthews Band, Taylor Swift, because my daughter and my wife are into them, and I could grab from almost anything from Gregorian chant to today's whatever's up on. I'm more like it's either a good song or it's a bad song. I don't really care what genre it really is.
Well, I know you're jammed with stuff, and I don't know if you've had a chance to listen, but I think the stuff that I'm doing I think it'll resonate with you. And I think what's fun is that I don't know how old your daughter is. I have a 8 and 9 year old. I have an 8-year-old son and a 9-year-old daughter, and she, most of these songs do get approval from them.
Yeah.
Like the groove or the sound, and like I'll bring them in. I'll say, "What do you think of this?" And they like them. So, and I found that their friends like them too. And now they're too young to be totally embarrassed by me. Although we're getting there. But if I can make fans out of the 6 to 10-year-old age group,
yeah,
that could be very influential someday.
It could. Yeah, my kid is 22, so they're
Yeah,
out of the
probably
they're out
not.
of the house already.
Got it.
They're gone. Yeah. So
What was the last big show you went to? Did you go see Dave Matthews at Alpine?
we did. I'm trying to think. What was the last one? We were supposed to go see Lake Street Dive in Milwaukee, but we just weren't feeling it that night. But that's another band we like to go see is Lake Street Dive.
Oh, they're great.
Yeah. Who else? Joseph. Have you ever heard of them?
I haven't. No.
Two twins and an older sister. They're 3-part harmony with a rock band behind them.
Well, that sounds cool.
Yeah. Kind of. It depends on which album you listen to. They can go from, lately it's more like pop, but earlier stuff was a little bit less pop, more rock, folk, Americana influence type stuff.
Yeah.
So,
I really like My Morning Jacket. They've been touring a lot. They're a great show if you ever get a chance to see them.
okay.
If David Byrne comes back to town,
Oh,
drop everything
yeah.
and go see David Byrne.
That's
If I could give you one piece of advice, that would be it. Don't miss him next time.
that's
It's an incredible show.
frontman for Talking Heads, if I'm remembering.
Correct.
Yeah. Great band. Yeah. There's so many great bands out there.
There are.
Government Mule is another one that I would love to go see. Rush, if they, too bad about, the drummer. Neil, just, it's just, there's, like I said, there's so many great stuff out there. I could talk about different bands all night as well,
Yeah. Cool. Well, if there's anything you want me to follow up on or anything else,
Well, like
let
I
me
said,
know,
when
but
I
think
when I get close to getting close to this episode, to getting it out there, I'll send you an email, see where you're at. We can stick some of the new stuff, definitely the stuff from the first LP on here for sure.
I would actually, Crimes is a much more current take. You're welcome to put whatever you want on there, but I would say tracks 2 and 3 on Crimes are sort of the focus tracks, called Upon Arrival and Turning on the Light.
Okay.
And those are the kind of the songs that are the now songs, but there's nothing that you would put on here that I would disavow.
Okay, great.
Beyond the baggage claim, the lost and found, that's where I'll be, still dreaming of turning on the light, and whether it's been worth it to me. In the middle of a sea change, ordered to the wrong plane, headed to the wrong town, in the middle of a lockdown. So please don't pick me up or roll away. Still dreaming, still dreaming, still dreaming. Battling no shame, under a new name, looking for the new sound, in the riddles of a breakdown. So please don't pick me up or roll away. Still dreaming, still dreaming, still dreaming.
I have to go because my wife's waiting for me to go help her in the kitchen.
No problem. Thanks,
I gotta
Zach.
go
Hey, man, I appreciate it. Thanks
Yeah.
for letting me do this. And
This was fun. I really appreciate this. This was great conversation. I love doing this stuff.
good. Well, let me know if I can help when this gets put up, and I'll promote it to my dozens of fans.
Okay, sounds good. You have a great night, and we'll
All right,
talk
man.
soon. All right.
Take it easy. Bye.
Well, thanks again for tuning in to another episode of the Wisconsin Music Podcast. Once again, I'm Zach Fell, your host and creator of the Wisconsin Music Podcast, where I love to amplify the great sounds coming out of the Wisconsin state. We have great talent here, great support, great listeners. Thanks to Fox Cities Indie Radio for syndicating this on Thursdays and Sundays, along with their other great programming. So make sure you check out the Fox Cities Indie Radio. Thanks to this week's musical guest, MD McNally, or Mike, sharing his music journey and talking about his albums and just music in general. So I hope you really enjoyed listening to Mike's story. If you'd like to be on the show, just go to wisconsinmusicpodcast.com, fill out the guest request form up at the top, ask for your email and your name, and then I'll send you an auto email asking you for more information. If you are enjoying these episodes, please consider donating to the Wisconsin Music Podcast. Donations help pay for the website and putting the podcast up on streaming services, and also getting our name out there to all Wisconsinites and others that are interested in our great music here in Wisconsin. Donations are secured through PayPal and Stripe. All you have to do is go to the website and click on Donate to WMP. You can also head over to our Instagram and Facebook pages and like us there. Leave some comments. Also go to the podcast review section of your podcast player and leave a 5-star review. Would be great. You can also head over to YouTube and watch the interviews and leave comments there as well. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you next time.